All right, so get ready because today we're going to be unpacking
Oh, this is gonna be good.
the pilot episode of Seinfeld.
Classic.
You know, you sent over some excerpts and
Yeah,
wanted to really explore the show's take on,
it's amazing.
I mean, pretty much everything, like
Yeah.
dating dynamics and social cues and
Uh-huh.
all those awkward moments
Oh, yeah,
that kind of make us cringe,
for sure.
but laugh at the same time, you know?
Seinfeld is fascinating because it's able to
Right.
find humor in the mundane,
Yes.
like those everyday experiences that we all relate to, but we don't always like sit
Right.
down and analyze.
You don't think about it too much.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So today we're going to break down some of those classic Seinfeld moments,
Kinda-
those hilarious observations about dating and just,
Yeah,
navigating life in the big city.
for sure.
And who knows, maybe we'll learn a little something about ourselves along the way.
Always do.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we always do. So where should we start?
Well, you got to start with Jerry's stand-up routine
Oh, of course.
about going out.
Yes. It's so relatable.
Isn't it?
It's that whole ritual of getting ready and
Yeah.
the anticipation of a night out. And then you realize,
Wow.
like, wait a minute.
You just want to be home.
Yeah, I just want to be back home in my PJs.
Exactly.
You know?
It's so true, that struggle that Jerry highlights. Like,
Right.
we crave that social energy,
We do.
but we also cherish our own,
Our space.
our personal space.
Yes.
And it's like this constant
Push and pull.
push and pull in our lives.
Yeah. He captures that so well.
He does.
Like, okay, I'm out, I'm doing the thing,
uh-huh.
but wait, do I really want to be here?
Yeah.
I think it speaks to a larger social anxiety, too.
Totally.
Like this need to be seen, this
Yeah.
need to be part of the in crowd,
Right.
even if it's not always that fulfilling.
It's like this performance, this
Yes.
outward projection of a certain lifestyle.
Yes. And Seinfeld satirizes that so well.
Beautifully.
Now, this episode is packed with these little observations
Ah.
about social dynamics.
For sure.
And one that always cracks me up is the second button debacle
Well, at the diner.
at the diner.
Yeah.
Jerry dissecting the placement of George's button
I know.
and claiming that it makes him look like he lives with his mother.
Right. Like, who analyzes buttons like that?
I know, but it's so funny.
Well, on the surface, it's just Jerry being,
Yeah.
hyper observant.
Right.
But if you dig a little deeper,
Okay.
it speaks to those unspoken social anxieties
Oh, for sure.
about appearance and fitting in.
Yes,
We've all had those moments where we get self-conscious about
of course.
like a clothing choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Are we sending the wrong message?
Exactly.
Exactly. And the way George gets so defensive just adds to the humor.
Totally.
It's like he knows deep down
Deep, deep.
Jerry might be onto something.
Yeah.
And-
It also highlights the dynamic
Yeah.
between Jerry and George.
Yes.
This constant push and pull of like playful jabs and insecurities.
It's what makes their friendship work.
Their friendship thrives on that back and forth.
Speaking of those back and forths,
Yeah.
that over-the-top reaction to the second button
Yeah.
reminds me of how Jerry gets fixated on other seemingly small things.
Like what?
Like in the laundry scene.
Oh, yeah.
Where he develops this whole theory about
Right.
over-drying.
Over-drying, the over-wetting,
Yes.
the over-dying.
Over-dye.
A perfect example of
It's just so Jerry.
taking a simple concept
Yeah.
and twisting it into this
It's absurd logic.
absurd logic.
And his analogy.
Oh, no.
Like, let's say you drop dead
Uh-huh.
and I shoot you.
You're not going to die again. You're already dead.
You're not going to die again.
That's-
Like, it makes absolutely no sense.
It's hilarious.
But it's so Jerry.
It's that commitment to a nonsensical argument
Yes.
delivered with complete conviction.
Oh, I love it.
Seinfeld finds humor in those moments
Yes.
where we get stuck in our own heads.
Yes.
Our own bizarre thought processes.
It makes you wonder, though, like, have you ever found yourself
Oh,
in
absolutely.
a similarly ridiculous argument?
Yes.
Completely convinced you were right? I think we've all been there.
A time or two.
A time or two, right?
Just like Jerry gets caught up
Yeah.
in those nonsensical arguments,
Uh-huh.
he also misinterprets signals in his dating life.
Oh, this is a good one.
Which brings us to
Yes.
the phone call from Laura
Oh, yes.
and George's instant conviction
Oh, George.
that Jerry is nothing but a backup.
He is so sure.
Right.
He's like, oh, I know what's happening here.
He becomes obsessed with
Yeah.
decoding every word of that phone call
Every single word.
that had to come in.
Uh-huh.
That maybe we'll get together.
Yeah, it's vague.
He's convinced that Laura's vague language
Oh, yeah?
is a clear sign.
But Jerry's not a priority.
that Jerry's not a priority.
Classic dating anxiety.
Isn't it?
Right.
trying to decipher
All those hidden meanings.
those hidden meanings
behind every single word.
and every gesture.
Yes. We all want to know where we stand,
Of course.
but sometimes we overthink it.
Especially in those early stages
Yes.
of a potential relationship.
And it doesn't help that George seeks validation from Claire,
Oh, Claire, the waitress.
the waitress. He's like, analyze this phone call from a female point of view,
Right.
which, of course, only confirms his suspicions.
Of course. That's the thing about Seinfeld. It often plays on
Oh, yeah.
those insecurities that we all have,
Uh-huh.
amplifying them
Yes.
to a comedic extreme.
Yes. But there's also a sense of truth in it,
Oh,
like
absolutely.
a recognition that
I've all been there,
we've all been there.
where we overanalyze
Yes.
a text message,
Or phone call.
desperate for clues.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And Jerry, meanwhile, is completely bewildered.
I know. He's like, what are you talking about?
He genuinely believes that if Laura wasn't interested,
Yeah.
she wouldn't have called at all.
Right.
It highlights the different ways
Yes.
men and women approach
Dating and communication.
dating and communication.
You know?
And it also sets the stage for even more misinterpretations
I was going to say.
and awkward encounters
Yeah.
later in the episode.
This is going to be good.
They're almost speaking different languages,
Right.
would you say?
Totally.
Yeah.
And just when you think they might be on the same page,
Uh-huh.
George throws out his elaborate theory on airport greetings.
Oh, yes.
Oh, man.
The placement of the bags,
Oh, it's so good.
the lip area,
Yeah.
the hug versus handshake.
Uh-huh.
It's hilarious.
I mean, it's hilarious, but it's so relatable.
But it's also so relatable.
We've all been there trying to decode those
Yeah.
subtle cues.
Absolutely.
Figure it all
I'm
out.
trying to figure it all out.
It's that hyper-awareness of every little detail,
Yes.
trying to find those signals.
That tell us if someone is truly interested or just being polite.
Right.
Seinfeld brilliantly captures that.
That anxiety of
Right.
trying to make a good impression.
Yes.
And of course, just when George thinks he's cracked the code, Laura throws a curveball
Oh, yeah.
with that surprise blindfold at the airport.
The blindfold.
Right.
Which is a perfect reminder
Oh.
that you can't always predict human behavior.
No.
People are complex.
Oh, that's true.
And sometimes the signals we're looking for are just mirages.
And just when Jerry thinks he might actually have a chance with Laura,
Right?
she drops the bombshell.
Uh-oh.
She's engaged.
She's engaged.
It's the ultimate Seinfeld twist, you know?
Right.
Like completely subverting our expectations.
It really highlights the absurdity
I know.
of trying to create these rigid rules for interpreting human behavior.
Yes.
People are complex.
They are.
They're unpredictable.
Yes.
And sometimes those signals we think we're seeing
Yeah.
are leading us down the wrong path entirely.
It's like Seinfeld is saying, hey, even when you think you've got it figured out, you probably don't.
Oh, that's good.
Which, you know,
Yeah.
perfectly sets us up for one of Jerry's most relatable stand-up routines.
It is.
His bit about the mystery of cotton balls.
Oh, yes, the cotton ball conundrum.
Such a good bit.
Hilarious contrast
I know.
between men's straightforward needs
Right.
and women's seemingly baffling routines.
You're like, I've never needed a cotton ball in my life.
Right.
You know, like, what are you ladies doing with them?
It's such a funny observation
It's so funny.
because it plays on those gender stereotypes
Yes.
and those little things that we just accept
We do.
as part of the dating game.
We could go, oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You know.
It also speaks to a larger point
Okay.
about the anxieties and pressures of dating,
Uh-huh.
particularly the desire to impress.
Okay.
You know, Jerry finding those leftover cotton balls
Uh-huh.
at his place after a date
Yeah.
and turning them into tumbleweeds
Oh, my gosh.
for the cockroaches.
That's so funny.
It's a hilarious exaggeration.
I know, but it captures that feeling
Yeah.
of wanting to present this perfect image.
Exactly.
And then he takes it a step further,
Mhm.
comparing a date to a job interview
Oh, yeah.
with the added pressure of potential nudity.
Oh, God.
He's like, not many job interviews is there a chance you'll end up naked at the end of it.
That's so true.
Cracks me up every time.
It speaks to the vulnerability
Yes.
we feel when we're putting ourselves out there romantically.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be liked. We want to be accepted.
We do.
And that can lead to a lot of overthinking
Yes.
and self-consciousness.
Seinfeld isn't afraid to poke fun at those insecurities.
Not at all.
Like the whole bathroom cleaning scene
Absolutely.
before Laura arrives.
Yeah.
Jerry's like meticulously scrubbing everything. And George, of course, is like, filth is good.
Classic Jordan.
What do you think rock stars have sponges and ammonia lying around the bathroom?
Always challenging.
I love it.
Conventional wisdom.
It's such a funny reminder
It is.
that sometimes we try too hard,
Yes.
We overthink things.
We do.
And in reality, a little authenticity
It might go a long way.
might go a long way.
Right.
It makes you wonder, how much of ourselves do we hide or change when we're trying to impress someone?
That's a good question.
Are we being genuine or are we putting on a performance?
It's an important question to consider,
It is.
both in our romantic lives
Yeah,
and just our social interactions in general.
absolutely. Yeah.
Are we being true to ourselves, or are we conforming to what we think
To what we think others expect.
others expect?
Yes.
Seinfeld encourages us
Yeah.
to examine those social norms and expectations with a critical eye
Yeah.
and to find the humor in those moments
That's all I have, though.
where we fall short.
Right.
Speaking of falling short,
Yes.
we have to go back to that airport scene.
Okay.
Remember George's obsession
Yeah.
with deciphering Laura's greeting?
He's convinced that every little detail
Wow.
is going to reveal her true intentions.
It's a brilliant satire
Oh, it is.
of the way we overanalyze social cues,
Yes.
especially in romantic situations.
And then Laura throws them off completely with the surprise blindfold. It's like Seinfeld is saying, hey, you can analyze all you want, but
Yeah.
sometimes you're just going to be surprised.
Exactly. Trying to create a rule book for human behavior
Right. Good luck.
is a futile exercise.
Exactly.
People are unpredictable,
That's true.
and that's part of what makes life interesting.
Yeah, that's true.
Speaking of unpredictable,
Yes.
we can't forget Jerry's closing stand-up bit
Oh, this is good.
about men's attempts
Oh, yeah.
to attract women.
The car horn honking,
Yeah.
the yelling from construction sites.
These are the best ideas we've had so far.
I love it.
It's a self-deprecating commentary
Yes.
on the often clumsy ways
Yes.
men try to get women's attention.
I know. It's so true.
And then he delivers that killer punchline.
Uh-huh.
That's why I think men get frustrated when we see women reading articles like Where to Meet Men.
Yeah.
We're here, we're everywhere, we're honking our horns to serve you better.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous.
But it also makes you think
It does.
about how miscommunication
Yeah.
plays out in dating.
Uh-huh.
Men and women often have different expectations,
For sure.
different ways of approaching these romantic interactions.
Absolutely.
And Seinfeld perfectly captures
That disconnect.
that disconnect.
It brings us back to that question we were pondering earlier.
Yes.
How much of ourselves do we change or hide when we're trying to attract someone?
Good question.
Are we being genuine or are we just putting on a show hoping for the best?
It's a question worth exploring further,
Okay.
both in our own lives
Yeah,
and in the context of this Seinfeld episode.
I agree.
But I think that's a conversation for our final segment.
We've spent this deep dive exploring all those awkward moments,
Yeah.
all those misinterpretations, those little anxieties that Seinfeld captures so perfectly.
Absolutely.
It's like holding up a mirror to our own lives.
It really is. And I think what makes Seinfeld so brilliant
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
it doesn't offer any easy answers
No, it doesn't.
or solutions.
Right.
It simply presents these scenarios
Yeah.
and allows us to laugh
At the absurdity of it all.
at the absurdity of it all.
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
a self-help guide to dating
No.
or social etiquette.
Right. It's more about,
It's about recognizing
yes, recognizing those universal experiences,
Okay.
those moments where we've all felt a little,
out of our depth,
out of our depth.
a little unsure of ourselves.
Yes, a little unsure of ourselves.
And finding the humor in those situations rather than taking ourselves too seriously.
It's funny because even though Seinfeld aired decades ago,
I know.
it still feels so relevant.
It does?
Like
Yeah.
the dating anxieties, the social awkwardness,
Yeah.
the struggles with everyday life.
All those things.
Those are timeless themes.
There are timeless
You know.
that we all grapple with.
I think so.
It's a testament to the show's
Yeah.
sharp writing
Uh-huh.
and its ability to tap into
Those fundamental,
those fundamental aspects
yes, of the human experience.
of the human experience.
And it also speaks to our own enduring fascination
Absolutely.
with these topics,
We-
We're still trying to figure out
yeah.
how to navigate these social landscapes, how to
Yeah.
decode those signals,
Right.
how to find connection in a world that can often feel isolating.
It can.
And Seinfeld reminds us that we're not alone
It's true.
in those struggles.
In those struggles.
We all have those moments where
Risk-
we misinterpret a signal, yes, Or we say the wrong thing.
Uh-huh.
Or we get caught up in our own neuroses.
Yeah,
It's part of what makes us human.
right. Embracing those imperfections.
Exactly.
Finding the humor in those missteps.
Yeah.
You know? It's a healthy way to cope
It is.
with the challenges of modern life.
Absolutely.
So next time you're agonizing over a text message,
Oh, yeah.
or wondering if you should have worn that second button, or feeling the pressure to present the perfect image,
Oh, yeah.
just remember those classic Seinfeld moments.
Take a step back.
Yes. Take a step back, observe the situation,
Yeah.
and ask yourself, what would Jerry, George, Elaine, or Kramer do?
Right.
You might just find the humor in it.
And that can be incredibly liberating.
Because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
life is full of these little absurdities, these awkward encounters, these miscommunications.
Yes.
And sometimes the best way to deal with them
I think so.
is to just laugh and maybe learn a little something about ourselves along the way.
Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.
Absolutely. Enjoyed it.
And remember, keep an eye out for those Seinfeld moments in your own life.
You never know where they'll pop up.
You never know, they might be more humorous than you realize.